I found out my neighbor had taken part of my backyard in the quietest way possible. No argument, no warning, no dramatic confrontation at first. I just walked outside one morning with a cup of coffee, looked toward the back of my lot, and felt that strange little pause in my brain when something is wrong before you fully understand why. The fence was new. That part was obvious. Fresh cedar, clean posts, straight line, professionally installed. But it wasn't sitting where it should have been. It was too close. Not by inches, by enough that I felt it immediately, even before I measured it. I've lived in that house for a little over 10 years. It's in an older neighborhood outside Dayton, the kind of place where the houses aren't fancy, but the lots are decent, the trees are mature, and most people keep things simple. When I bought the place, I wasn't looking for something impressive. I was looking for something steady. It was right after my divorce, and I wanted a house that felt quiet, safe, ordinary in the best possible way. The backyard was one of the reasons I bought it. It stretched wider than most on the block because the lot sat at a slight angle. It opened up more than you expected, and along the back edge there was a row of old maple trees that had been there longer than anyone around. No fence, no hard barrier, just those trees and a general understanding of where the line was. That open backyard became part of how I lived. My dog used to run lazy circles back there in the evenings. In the fall, the leaves from those maples covered the grass in red and gold. Kids from down the street sometimes chased a ball across the backstretch, and nobody made a federal case out of it. It was one of those spaces that felt easy, uncomplicated. The previous owner had even joked with me during closing that he never liked fences because they made neighbors act like enemies. At the time, I laughed. Later on, I understood exactly what he meant. Everything stayed that way for years. Then the house behind mine sold. At first, I didn't think much of it. Houses sell. People move. A younger couple bought the place, and within a week it was obvious they were the renovation type. New paint, roof work, landscaping, contractors in and out, delivery trucks, the whole thing. They weren't rude exactly, just very sure of themselves. The kind of people who arrive somewhere and immediately start improving it. Usually I don't care what other people do with their property. It's their house, their money, their business. And for the first few weeks I kept that attitude. Then the fence company showed up. I watched them from my kitchen window while drinking coffee one morning. Big truck, stacked cedar panels, posts, tools, men unloading equipment and walking the backyard line. I remember thinking it made sense. Plenty of people want privacy fences. That didn't bother me. The only reason I even paid attention was because I'd been used to seeing open space back there for so long. A fence was going to change the feel of things, but that was about it. I never imagined I'd be measuring it by the next morning. They worked all day. Post holes, drills, panels going up section by section. By evening, the fence was mostly in place. I stood on my porch and looked toward the back, and something felt off. Not in a dramatic way, just wrong enough that I noticed it. It looked closer than I expected. I told myself it was probably perspective. A new structure changes the way space feels. Open yards always look bigger than fenced ones, so I let it go that night. The next morning, curiosity got the better of me. There was one spot in my yard I knew well, a corner maple tree near the back. When I bought the house, the original survey had mentioned it because it sat near the property line. I remembered the distance from the back porch corner to that tree being just about 30 feet. Not because I'd memorized it for fun, but because I had looked over those documents carefully at closing, back when every detail felt important. So I grabbed a tape measure and walked out there. I hooked the tape at the porch corner and pulled it toward the fence line. 22 feet. I checked again. Slower this time. Still 22. I stood there staring at the number while the morning breeze moved through those maple leaves overhead. 8 feet. 8 full feet of my backyard was now sitting on the other side of that brand new fence. At that point, I still wanted to believe it was a mistake. Construction crews get things wrong. Stakes get moved. Somebody reads a plan too fast. So I did what any reasonable person would do. I walked around to the front of their house and knocked on the door. The husband answered. Friendly enough on the surface. Relaxed posture. No sign that anything unusual had happened. I kept it calm and told him I thought there might be an issue with the new fence in the back. He tilted his head a little and asked what kind of issue. I said it looked like the fence might be sitting a few feet inside my property line. He didn't seem alarmed. He didn't even seem curious. He just said their contractor followed the stakes. I asked whether he had a copy of the survey. He said not on him. I asked whether he'd be willing to double-check before they finished everything, just to be safe. That was when the tone changed. Not angry, not loud, just dismissive. He crossed his arms and said the job was already done. Already paid for, and honestly, the fence looked good where it was. That sentence told me a lot. Not, we'll look into it. Not, maybe something got crossed up. Just that it looked good where it was. I stood there another second, let the silence do a little work, then told him I'd look into it. He gave me a quick smile, the kind people use when they think the conversation is beneath them, and closed the door. I walked back into my yard and stood near that maple tree again, looking at the fence cutting across grass I had been mowing and using for more than a decade. That was the moment it stopped feeling accidental. 2 days later, a licensed surveyor came out. He was an older guy in a dusty work truck. Exactly the kind of man you want for a job like that, because he looked like he had spent his whole life settling arguments without saying much. He walked the property, set up his equipment, checked the buried markers, referenced county records, and spent hours doing everything properly. I mostly stayed out of the way and watched from the porch with a coffee mug in my hand, pretending I wasn't following every move. About halfway through, the couple came out onto their deck behind the fence and watched too. Nobody waved. Nobody said anything. That quiet was worse than yelling somehow. Just all of us, standing in our own corners, waiting for reality to settle where it needed to settle. By late morning, the surveyor walked back over to me and said very plainly that I was right. Then he pulled a bundle of bright orange flags out of the truck and started planting them in the ground one by one. Every single flag went down several feet in front of the fence. When he finished, there it was in a perfectly straight line, the actual property boundary, and the fence sat a full 8 feet behind it. I asked him to send me the official paperwork. Then I took photos from every angle I could think of. Wide shots, close shots, the flags in relation to the fence, the lot line, the whole thing. That afternoon, I sent the husband a short email with the survey attached, along with a simple message saying the fence was 8 feet inside my lot and asking when he wanted to discuss moving it. That felt fair, professional, more than fair. Really, he didn't answer. 3 days passed. Then more, nothing. A week later, I went back over. This time the wife answered first, then called him to the door. I asked if he had seen the survey. He said yes, just yes. Nothing else. So I asked what he planned to do about it. He rubbed the back of his neck, looked uncomfortable for maybe half a second, then said moving the fence would cost a lot of money. The posts were set in concrete. The company had finished the job. He paused like that should settle the matter. Then he said the sentence that ended whatever neighborly patience I still had. He said I still had plenty of backyard. I looked at him and asked if he was seriously suggesting I give up 8 feet of my own property because fixing it would be inconvenient for him. He shrugged, and then he called it a mistake. That word bothered me more than almost anything else, because mistake makes it sound harmless, temporary, forgivable, like a cup knocked over at dinner. But this wasn't a mistake anymore. Mistakes get corrected once they're discovered. This was a choice. He had a survey in front of him. He had proof. And he had decided that since repairing the problem would cost him money, I should absorb the loss instead. That afternoon, I was angry in the quietest, most focused way I've ever been. Not shouting angry. Not break something angry. Just clear. And clarity can be dangerous if you're the person on the other side of it. I pulled up the county parcel map online and zoomed in until I could see the shape of both lots clearly. That narrow strip behind his fence still belonged to my parcel. The fence did not change ownership. The county map did not care about curb appeal or convenience. That land was mine, which meant I still had the right to improve it, use it, and control it. That's when the idea started. At first, it was practical. If he was going to leave my property trapped behind his fence, then I needed to use it in a way he couldn't ignore. Something legal, something visible, something that made the cost of pretending feel heavier than the cost of correcting it.